So this chapter is obviously the calm before the storm. This chapter is just way too happy compared to everything we have seen from this series. But on top of that, when you have the characters even state that they have not lost anyone, they've all managed to make it here without losing anyone, when something like that is said in a form of literature, you can expect that to be a flag, a death flag. And as soon as I heard Emma say that, and she was thinking about it, I'm like, Emma, you realize what you just did was basically give everybody a flag. Everybody has the potential to be axed out of this series now because of what you just said. Now, I don't know if the writer and all that is willing to do that, but that is one big thing that has been lacking for The Promised Neverland. Death. A permanent death. When it comes to The Promised Neverland as a series, we all expected these children that are a part of our main cast, we expected some of them not to make it. We expected some of them to not make it because of just how everything is, how this series has been built up, how the world is completely against them. They're in a demon world, and they're not in the human world. They have no one they can really rely on, so we expected some of them to kind of drop off, but somehow they haven't. And from what we found out from the adult, he has lost everyone. From what we know, he has managed to lose everyone. He no longer has anyone that he used to know. They were all taken away, and, you know, he no longer, you know, could ever see them again because they're gone. He lost everything. And he was asking the children, like, how come you're all here? How come none of you had to suffer? Or why none of you, you know, died or whatever? It makes a lot of sense because this man, he's lost everything, but somehow the children were just so lucky that they didn't lose anyone at all. And so that's the big thing here that I need to ask is, like, with Emma saying that, does that mean that there is a potential possibility some of our characters might be getting axed out very soon? So anyways, besides that, let's talk about the chapter overall. The ending conclusion, I'm just scratching my head like, why? Out of everything that you could have done, just why? Let me explain. These kids, we have underestimated them many times, which is why we continuously forget that they are very smart for their age. They're like top-of-the-line human beings. They are very intelligent for their age, which has been explained. However, out of all of these little things we have seen from the characters, for instance, being very intelligent, showcasing that they're way above normal children, what they did in this chapter kind of irked me a bit. Now, this could easily be explained if the writer explains, like, you know, the dude was able to get out of it instantly or whatever, or maybe this is what Ray and Emma wanted, but let's talk about how the dude was able to cut out of the duct tape that was wrapping around him. It makes you wonder, like, if he cut out of it, like, shouldn't the children been checking up on him? I mean, it felt like a very stupid mistake, because these kids, like I've said, they're very intelligent. They have proven time and time again throughout this series, through our journey of reading each chapter by chapter, that they are not stupid. They are very smart. But for them to make such a critical mistake, it makes you wonder, why? I mean, I understand from a actual story perspective. I mean, there needs to be conflict because all of the children, they are very safe right now. They don't need to really worry about anything. And so, yeah, it seems like everything's going too well. So there needs to be some form of conflict to spice things up, because this series is about suspense, tension, and stuff like that. And so the dude getting free, it makes sense from a story perspective, because that needs to happen. However, just in terms of intelligence for the kids, it doesn't make sense, because once again, for them not to check up on this dude after this dude being alone for so long, it just, why would you do that? It doesn't make sense because of the type of characters Ray and Emma is. So I do hope that the writer does explain that, because just for now, the only thing I could assume is that Emma truly believes that this dude does not want to harm them. And so she is actually just dropping her guard because she believes that the man, he had his chance to already get rid of them, but he didn't. So if he really wanted to kill them, he would have already have done so. So maybe that is the reason why they didn't check up on him and they expected. And also, the weapon, too. He had a knife on him. I mean, you even see at the final panel of the chapter, he had a knife on him, and he cut the duct tape that was surrounding him. So the man had weapons on him. You would think that Ray and Emma, since they're so intelligent, they would have checked the man to see if he had anything on him. They would have checked the pen and all that, looked at the pen, see if anything's a little bit different with it compared to what they received from, you know, William. You would think that they would have checked all these details, but it doesn't seem like they did. So like I said, that needs to be explained, but we'll find out with the next chapter. Overall, though, from a story perspective, makes sense. We need conflict, but just in terms of the way the characters are, it goes against what the characters have been proven to be. Anyways, the situation of the living facility, the shelter that they're currently in, is very, very impressive. It's very self-sufficient. It actually runs on its own power grid that you can continuously use recycled energy, and also you have your own farm there, which was expected. I expected some form of farm to be there if it's a shelter, which I was figuring, like, if it was just canned foods and stuff, obviously the dude would have ran out a lot sooner if he was just using cans, and it would have spoiled eventually. After like 5 or 4 years or so, stuff would begin to start spoiling, depending on what it is, besides a Twinkie. Obviously, Twinkie would survive the end of days, because, you know, we know Twinkies can survive a nuclear explosion. Jokes aside, though, anyways, it's obvious that a garden was there. And so for them to actually talk about a garden, say that they're going to try to make a new garden to expand upon food production, makes perfect sense. I like that. It's very smart, because that's what the children need. They may have a lot there, but they need to expand upon it because they need for themselves, for they can continuously have food, but also they need to worry about the situation when more people join them. If they do start saving people, because that is the in-game objective of the Promised Neverland, is to save more children, save more humans, and get them out of the demon world, then they're going to need to expand upon the shelter. They're going to need to make the shelter much bigger. They're going to need to make it where it can supply people with more food, and they don't really need to worry. So them planning on the gardening and stuff, perfect sense. The only thing that I really wonder about is the soil situation. Now, I know that the writer most likely has not put a lot of thought in this. I don't really expect the writer to go over this far, because I know not a lot of literature like to go to every single little detail and be completely realistic. I mean, that's just asking too much. But I would really give props to the writer of The Promised Neverland if he factors in the soil situation. Let me explain. When you plant food, vegetables, whatever, in, you know, dirt, and use the same soil over and over, it actually makes the soil less useful. It doesn't have as much nutrients as it once did. You just can't grow things in it properly anymore if you continuously use that same dirt. Even if you use, you know, waste material, you know, like poop and stuff, like, you know, human feces, it would not actually continuously be a good idea to use the same exact soil for years after years. This is why some gardeners or farmers, they have to switch the soil up. They have to go to different areas and plant things throughout the year. I mean, this situation was actually even tackled in Spice and Wolf. I remember I was really just amazed by Spice and Wolf when it tackled this little subject. I was like, yo, I didn't really even know this. So I wonder if the writer of The Promised Neverland is factoring that in as well, because if you have a little garden underground and all that, and it's been using the same soil for a very long time, that's going to be a problem. It's going to be a problem for the plants, because there's going to be needing new soil. You're going to need to figure out a way to replant these in different areas and kind of free up the soil and let it, you know, flourish a little bit before you decide to use it once again. But like I said, I don't know if the writer's willing to go that far for gardening, because that seems a little bit unrealistic in terms of just trying to write that in, but we'll see. Anyways, let's talk about the situation with hot water to the water reserve. Now, underground water, no problem. I mean, it's expected. You know, Earth, since we technically are on Earth, it's just like a different section of Earth. It's like the demon world part of Earth. Basically, it's to be expected that there would be water. There would be like an underground water well or something. That makes sense too. Power running off it, most likely running off of like water, electricity and stuff, just, you know, going through, you know, hydro. I forget the actual term to it. You know, using water to have, you know, electricity, but also using, you know, waste materials to also other forms of electricity to continue to power the place. I'm glad that we got all these little details to how the place runs, because that was the big question. I mean, for this man to be by himself, makes you wonder how he was able to be here for so long with the power and all that, or food and all that. He had to be doing something. So it does explain that this dude that has been down here for this long, he has actually been taking care of all of the other little details of the shelter. I mean, you gotta go figure. This man obviously had to take care of the plants. For the garden to still be there means that the man was actively working on the garden and actually keeping it healthy. And like I said, I don't know if the soil situation was handled or not, but he was actively working on the garden. We do know that the man didn't eat all the food up, which shows that he was able to kind of, you know, be moderate with his food consumption. Then we have the situation with the hot water to the electricity. Now, this, obviously, like I said, this might not be tackled into either, but we gotta factor in repairs and stuff of the shelter. The shelter, over time, over many years, it's gonna need repairs. It's common sense. That's just how things are in real life. I mean, when you get something like, you know, a camera, when you get, like, a computer, anything needs a repair over time, especially if you're going to be using it constantly. And maybe the reason why it hasn't worn down as much thanks to one person being there, but over time, many people using like a bath or something, or, you know, using the electricity, it's going to wear things down. And so I wonder if this series is going to tackle that problem, tackle the problem of shelter, tackle the problem of repairing things. Because, I mean, let's just say like the electrical breaks or something, or let's say the water well dries up. How are they going to fix this problem? Are they going to go try to find new water and hook up new pipes or something into a completely different area or something? That's my question. I mean, how will they repair things if stuff gets broken down or something? Like maybe lights get destroyed or something, or an earthquake happens and the walls collapse or something. How are they going to fix stuff like that? I wonder if the writer is willing to dive into repairs and stuff and explain if the dude that's been there by himself for so long also had to do stuff like that. Anyways, besides that, the chapter overall was a very happy chapter. I mean, it was a chapter that had a lot of smiles, a lot of laughs. We got to see all the children happy. There's some good comedy moments. We had a little dinner scene as well, when you see them sitting all at the dinner table, just, you know, being thankful for their food and all that, and they're eating. Very sweet scene. New fresh clothes, and they also took a bath. I mean, just overall, the chapter was a very peaceful and happy chapter, and it was very different from the normal stuff we have seen from The Promised Neverland, because normally when we're reading this series, you have that tension, you have that suspense, and you're like, what's going to happen next? But even though we still kind of have that because of the cliffhanger, it still was a very peaceful chapter, and I don't think this is going to last for too long because of how the series is in general. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. How do you feel about The Promised Neverland? Did you enjoy this chapter that just came out? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Please be safe. Chibi out.